We firmly believe that music enhances the listening experience. Unfortunately, we are unable to include music directly on YouTube. Therefore, we recommend that you listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Malia J on YouTube or your favorite streaming service before each episode. Official transcript from the National Report to the Senate RE. Illegal use of microtransactions and fraud investigation into the City of Sojourn, August 25th, 2020. The City of Sojourn and its parent companies, led by CEO Nathaniel Rhodes, have raised significant concerns about the potential economic destabilization caused by their overcharging practices and the increasingly prevalent pay to win model. Payments made outside the USA could destabilize those countries, as the revenue does not benefit them directly. Additionally, the heavy reliance on numerous pay for click services could increase poverty levels within the United States. Such practices not only threaten fair competition, but also risk undermining the integrity of our economic systems, making it imperative that we address these issues to safeguard the financial well-being of both international communities and players in the United States. Tim Riddle, the Republican Committee Chair for the Senate Joint Economic Committee. Episode 3, Beyond the White Wall.
Kyle pulled up his light band and commented to the group as they circled each other, ensuring that everyone was on the same page before embarking on their adventure. "I'm just going to make sure that our party is complete, and we've all accepted," he said, glancing at each member to confirm their readiness. He emphasized to Andrew the importance of accepting a party invite, explaining that it meant a portion of experience would be shared among them, allowing everyone to grow stronger together. This was particularly beneficial for the group, as Kyle was the highest-ranked member at level 61, while the others ranged from level 15 to level 39. The diversity in their levels meant that each member brought unique strengths and perspectives, creating a well-rounded team capable of tackling any obstacle. Kyle's leadership and experience had been invaluable in guiding them through the challenges thus far. He was usually the party leader and always seemed a treasure trove of City of Sojourn knowledge. He was frequently on SoTube, listening to quest overviews and staying up to date on all new updates or news. He did all this while also being a top student at Newport High. As they prepared to set out, Kyle took a moment to address the group, sharing strategies and tips he had learned from his own journey. He reminded them to watch each other's backs and to communicate clearly during battles. The camaraderie among the group was palpable, with each member eager to learn from Kyle and contribute to the team's success. Andrew, in particular, was grateful for Kyle's mentorship, as he had recently joined the group and was still finding his footing. Andrew was about to get his first experiences and was also a little nervous. Fighting online in a two-dimensional video game was a far cry from this immersive landscape with the Immersigear unit. While nervous, Andrew was also extremely excited to finally be doing what he had been watching online. The anticipation in the air was electric as the group prepared to embark on their adventure. Each member took a moment to check their gear and ensure they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Kyle's confidence was infectious, and his ability to strategize and adapt to new situations inspired the group. He had a knack for making complex game mechanics seem simple, and his enthusiasm for the game was contagious. The team felt lucky to have him as their leader, knowing that his guidance would be crucial in navigating the treacherous paths of the City of Sojourn. As they set off, a sense of unity and purpose bonded the group, each member determined to prove their worth and contribute to the team's success. The transition from spectator to participant was exhilarating, and he felt a rush of adrenaline as they encountered their first challenge. With Kyle's guidance, the group would work seamlessly together, combining their unique abilities to overcome obstacles and defeat enemies. Andrew's initial nervousness began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of confidence and camaraderie. He realized that this was more than just a game. It was an opportunity to learn, grow, and forge lasting friendships. With Kyle leading the way, the group was ready to face whatever adventures awaited them in the city of Sojourn. With their party officially formed and spirits high, the group set off on their quest, the bond between them strengthened, transforming them from a group of individuals into a cohesive unit. As they stood ready to pass through the front gates of new beginnings, the group was immediately captivated by the sight of a large, ornate, four-story water feature that dominated the center of the main gate. The fountain's grandeur was impossible to ignore, and its intricate design left many with mouths agape in awe. The developer who made this clearly wanted this to be the main focus walking into the city. Kai commented to Andrew, "This feature gets me every time." The fountain served as a popular gathering spot for people preparing to leave the city, creating a lively atmosphere filled with anticipation and excitement. The gentle roar of cascading water added to the ambiance, making it a perfect place for travelers to pause and take in the beauty around them. The water feature was not the only marvel to behold. It was surrounded by a collection of huge, beautiful statues that captured the imagination of all who passed by. These statues, each telling their own story, were a testament to the city's rich history and artistic heritage. Visitors and locals alike were drawn to the area, finding solace and inspiration in the art that adorned the cityscape. Many chose to sit at the base of the fountain, engaging in conversation with friends and strangers alike, sharing tales of their journeys and dreams of what lay ahead. Adding to the enchanting atmosphere was the subtle sound of light music emanating from cleverly concealed speakers within the rocks. This melodic backdrop created a serene environment, inviting people to linger a little longer and soak in the tranquil surroundings. The combination of visual splendor and soothing music made the entrance to New Beginnings a truly magical place, setting the tone for the adventures that awaited beyond the city's gates. It was a place where new friendships were forged and old ones strengthened as travelers prepared to embark on their next chapter. City guards also congregated around this entrance. Even though the guard post was a little ways away, you could always see at least 16 to 40 guards at different intervals, saluting or arresting individuals. A pair of city guards saluted Andrew and his group as they passed. "Any more in that party, and they could be a mob?" one guard commented. Kyle began explaining the city's entrance layout to Andrew. "See that green pasture outside the city wall?" Kyle pointed. "That's actually a special safe zone, but not the one you saw when you first arrived. Each new player gets their own private starting area that only they can access. There's always an NPC there to greet them and explain the basics." He chuckled. "They added that feature after too many new players got destroyed right after logging in. Wasn't even there during the earliest beta tests." Stepping forward onto the stone path that entered into and was leaving the city, Jessica added, "We're safe here, but once we pass the green belt, it's open season." "You mean the monsters can get us?" Andrew asked nervously. Kai grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Nope, we get them. We're the badasses around here." Andrew turned to Kyle with a hint of apprehension in his voice and asked, "Is it kind of scary fighting these things in the game? Like, how big is a dire wolf?" Kyle, with a reassuring smile, began to explain the formidable nature of the creatures they would face. "A dire wolf," he said, "is about 2 times the size of a human." The sheer size of these beasts was enough to intimidate even the most seasoned players, but Kyle knew that understanding their strengths and weaknesses was key to overcoming them. Kyle continued, delving into the mechanics of the game. "What's tough," he explained, "is that each weapon we use has a set number of hit points that determine the damage it can inflict. For instance, your sword might have a damage rating of 12 to 15, while a standard dire wolf has about 50 to 55 HP. He emphasized the importance of strategy and patience, as it would take multiple hits to bring down such a formidable opponent. The game also included the element of chance, with critical hits occasionally turning the tide of battle. These critical hits were a welcome surprise, as they could allow a simple sword to vanquish a creature with a single blow. NPC creatures are many times one-sided, said Kyle. What I mean is they use one or two attacks all the time, so all you need to do is read the attack to parry, dodge, deflect, or engage with your own attack. Andrew nodded, but he knew it was something he needed to experience to fully understand. Despite the initial fear that came with facing such daunting foes, Kyle assured Andrew that the experience became exhilarating once players got the hang of it. "I'll tell you," Kyle said. "It's a lot scarier in person at first until you get the hang of it. Then it's exciting." He encouraged Andrew to embrace the thrill of the hunt, reminding him that each battle was an opportunity to learn and grow stronger. The sense of accomplishment that came with defeating a powerful enemy was unmatched, and Kyle knew that Andrew would soon find himself addicted to the adrenaline rush. As they continued their conversation, Kyle shared stories of his own encounters with dire wolves, painting vivid pictures of epic battles and narrow escapes. His tales were both cautionary and inspiring, serving as a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Andrew listened intently, his initial fear slowly transforming into anticipation. With Kyle's guidance and support, he felt more prepared to face the dangers of the game, ready to prove himself and earn his place among the ranks of skilled adventurers. Mike stepped forward, hefting his massive axe. "Check this out. My base axe battle damage is 48, but with critical hits, I can spike up to 100 or 120 damage. Those dire wolves we'll be hunting, they only have 50 health max. Let me show you how to really fight them." "Every weapon has what we call a power move," Mike continued, shifting his axe into a combat stance. "The power move usually depletes like 30-50 stamina, but as a orc, I regenerate stamina 3 times faster than humans, so it's not an issue for me. The trick is learning to feel it. It's like a subconscious thing. Instead of just hacking away, you need to concentrate. You'll feel energy building in your arm. When it peaks, release it. The damage difference is huge." Jessica suddenly pointed toward a distant hill where 2 dire wolves were grazing. A group of players, a human archer, a mage, and a knight, were approaching them. They watched as the archer drew back their bow, a crimson arrow materializing and crackling with energy. The arrow streaked through the air, trailing lightning, and struck one wolf. The energy chain reacted, killing both beasts instantly. They dissolved, leaving behind glowing orbs. "Easy peasy," Jessica said with a grin, causing everyone to laugh. "That was an energy arrow most likely called Red Lightning. Costs about 100 mana points to use. I have that skill, but the arrow expands and turns into 3 for the same mana cost," said Jessica in a bragging manner. "No pressure," Kai added, giving Andrew a friendly pat on the back. "Let's find you some wolves of your own." Kyle explained further, "When creatures die, they drop HP orbs. Could be health points, experience, or items. You can sell the items, or—" He gestured to Tommy. "That's where I come in," Tommy said proudly. "I'm a forge master, alongside being an assassin and thief. I can break down items into base elements for crafting, everything from lockpicks to health potions and invisibility brews. We've even got our own house in the city with a smith shop where we sell our crafts. 8 bedrooms and everything." "We pooled our money to buy it," Tommy continued. "Houses are rare here. They only become available at random times. Most players have to rent storage from shopkeepers or information brokers, but that's risky. Too many stories of theft." Sarah nodded from the back. "Plus, we've got a garden." "Wow," Andrew said, clearly impressed. "You guys are so far ahead of me." "Don't worry," Sarah smiled. "You'll catch up faster than you think." "We've all stuck together since landing here," Kyle explained, leaning against a nearby tree. "That's actually why we're not super high-ranked yet. We've focused on helping each other level up instead of racing ahead. It's like high school all over again. Popular people are the guilds, and some people can be real jerks." He lowered his voice. The big guilds get access to the best experience points and missions, but many of them are player killers too. That's why we collect any flame we find out there. It's brutal otherwise. Most guilds only show loyalty to their own members or sometimes form alliances with other guilds, but they couldn't care less about solo players trying to level up. For some people, this game is all they have, so we look out for each other. Kai explained expressively, when a player dies like this pretending he was stabbed, his character will usually drop all his items currently equipped, and being more expressive while dying, the one thing left is a little spark, but because it looks more like a flame, we call it that in the game. Now NPCs or players can also pick up your flame. NPCs can actually live off your flame and kind of sap energy from it and get stronger as long as they have them. Kylie cut in, it's rare, but he means creatures, not NPCs, because an NPC will usually bring them back to the cities to the Urn of Reawakening if another player is not around. Jessica commented, can you imagine dying and waiting 180 days to play again? If not for Sarah and her build and running skills, we would not be here today to play with you, she said, giving Sarah a big thumbs up. Sarah looked over and returned the thanks with a strong head nod. Kai suddenly remembered something important. Oh, hey, have you activated your language settings yet? When Andrew shook his head, Kai guided him through his settings menu. Look for Interpret All Languages. It's one of the coolest features in the game. Andrew found the setting and clicked it, letting out a long, impressed whistle. Woo! This is awesome, he grinned, his eyes lighting up. I feel just like Neo in the Matrix when he learned Kung Fu. The group chuckled at his enthusiasm, remembering their own early days of discovery in the game. As they walked in a straight line out of the green pasture, Andrew observed patches of dire wolves and other creatures scattered across the landscape. He turned to Kyle, who was closest to him. How far have you guys ventured out? Mostly cave expeditions, Kyle replied, gesturing to the distant mountains. We like to mine and sell the ore in town. We've explored about a mile radius from the city. The deeper you go, the stranger things get. Mike commented, we get a lot of XP in the community events that happen once a month and in the regional or global events. Last year, for 30 days, we paid for a group passport and almost won the team event. We went up multiple levels and got to walk around their location-specific towns. Tommy screamed from the back. It was legend, and with a subtly pause he continued, airy, legendary. Andrew thought about how cool it must have been to be in that region for 30 days and thought of another question. What's the weirdest creature you've encountered? Andrew asked curiously. Kai laughed, raising his staff dramatically. I once fought a walking tree. There are zombies too, Mike added with a grimace. Sarah screamed, I killed a chief orc, and his guts exploded everywhere. Looking at Mike, she commented, was he a cousin of yours? Mike grunted, and they all laughed. Jessica chimed in, barely containing her laughter. I encountered this bizarre creature that looked like well, let's just say its appearance was rather anatomical. The group burst into laughter as she defended herself. What? It really did, and it was absolutely nasty. Kai just looked at her mockingly. What? It was chasing me around like this, she ended, as she continued to elaborate, walking in a hopping manner. Kyle suddenly noticed other adventurers heading their way and pointed left. Let's avoid them and head this direction. He turned to Andrew. Hey, mind if we start calling you by your character name, Merc? I know I've been using your real name. Yeah, of course, Andrew replied. Makes more sense in-game anyway. The others nodded in agreement, appreciating the shift to proper gaming etiquette. From that point on, they all used their character names, helping to maintain the immersion of their virtual world. We've got some good allies in the city, Kyle explained. There's a clan called the Triple Axes. Their headmaster is Josh, though everyone knows him as Axel. He chuckled at the obvious nickname as his character looked to wear a top hat. They're great people, about 150 members strong. Their guild manor is just a block from ours, and we spend a lot of time running missions with them. We're also friendly with Lost Souls ZZ, Sarah added. One of their members, Ethan, is particularly close with our group. They're actually ranked in the top 5 clans, though that's mostly because of XP grinding. They've got 6 of the highest-ranked players in the entire game on their roster. They still only have like 42, 43 members. Jessica added, They all act ex-military, though. The missions are all by the book, like out of a military movie. But Tron is cute, said Sarah, as she patted Jessica's back, and Jessica agreed. Having allies like that can be crucial for survival, Tommy explained to Merc, especially when you're just starting out. The gaming world can be pretty cutthroat, but having connections with respected clans like Triple Axes and Lost Souls, Z, offers some protection and opportunities you wouldn't get otherwise. Oh, by the way, Kyle mentioned, checking his messages. Daisuke apologized for missing our usual dinner meetup. He's stuck in a lab at school but said he might log on later. If not, definitely tomorrow. Sarah sighed, adjusting her staff. Most of us need to log off in about 30 minutes anyway. Got that geometry test to study for. Yeah, I've actually got that covered, Andrew said with unexpected confidence. Geometry's kind of my jam. Well, before we have to log off, Jessica said, drawing her bow, let's get some kills in for you, Merc. As they crossed a clearing near the riverbank, they spotted 3 groups of dire wolves, a pack of 5 in the distance, a pack of 3, and another group of about 10 surrounding a large rock. Atop the rock, they could hear the desperate shouts of what appeared to be a newer player calling for help. Looks like a newbie, Kai observed, gripping his weapon tighter, their gear's basic level. The group exchanged knowing looks, remembering their own early days in the game. Without needing to discuss it, they began moving toward the surrounded player, ready to help. Jessica drew her bow, activating her enhanced sight ability. Yeah, definitely a newbie. They're safe for now, perched on that rock. She lowered her bow and turned to Merc. See? This is why we warned you about going solo. Too many new players get wiped out, and if no one collects their flame within 180 days, they're locked out. Imagine spending all that money just to get KIA right away. Kyle gestured toward the smaller pack of 5 dire wolves. Let's get Merc his first kill over here, then we can help out our stranded friend. As they approached the pack of wolves, which were lazily pawing at the dirt, Andrew felt his heart racing with anticipation. Kai and Mike flanked him, offering quick advice. Stay calm and remember to activate your finishing move when the time comes. Though Andrew wasn't sure how to trigger his finishing move, instinct took over as he engaged the first dire wolf. In a fluid motion, he spun like a torpedo jumping in the air and delivered 3 precise strikes with his sword, the final blow cleanly severing the creature's neck. His companions watched in amazement, with Kai muttering, "That was without even using a special move." Emboldened, Andrew charged at the second wolf, dispatching it with 5 calculated hits. The beast dissolved into pixels, leaving behind a glowing yellow orb. With 2 wolves down, he faced his next target while absorbing the orbs. As he jabbed repeatedly at the creature, something strange coursed through him, an indescribable energy that made his sword glow bright yellow. The blade suddenly lurched forward, piercing the dire wolf's mouth and causing it to explode in a burst of light. Mike and Kai quickly finished off the remaining wolves, while Kyle nodded approvingly. "Nice work. You managed without your finishing move until the end. Pretty sure you triggered it when that last one was down to 1 HP. Those extra orbs are extra XP. You sometimes get a double bonus," said Kyle. "That was some epic-level stuff right there," Jessica added, clearly impressed. Andrew sat down, breathing heavily, but exhilarated. That was incredible," he managed between breaths, still processing what he'd just accomplished. Mike waved at Andrew to get his attention. "Look at this Merc." He pulled out a strange weapon that looked like a mix of a boomerang and a club. This is my Orc Club Orang." Andrew watched as Mike appeared to be charging the club weapon with stamina, ran at the group of three and threw his club, Ang. It hit and killed all three wolves with uncharacteristic precision and came right back to Mike with a loud and resounding thud. Jessica pulled back her bowstrings and released 4 rapid-fire shots into the distance. The arrows caught the attention of several dire wolves, which began charging toward them. With practiced precision, she selected specialized arrows from her quiver and dispatched 3 of the approaching beasts in quick succession. "These wolves don't offer much XP individually," she called out, "but it might be enough to push you to level 2, Merc." The group advanced as Jessica continued picking off the remaining wolves, making their way to the stranded player on the rocks. Kyle took the lead. "Hey there, looked like you could use some help." The stranger, still visibly shaking, expressed his gratitude profusely. "I'm Thomas, and I'm completely lost here," he admitted sheepishly. The group explained the basics and strongly suggested he join the Adventurers Guild first, where he could receive proper training before venturing out alone. Thomas nodded enthusiastically and took off so quickly that his stamina bar must have depleted within seconds. "Level 2, Andrew announced triumphantly as he collected the HP orbs, prompting Kyle to confirm that all his base stats would increase by 10 points. Kai turned to Andrew with curiosity in his eyes. "Those moves you used against the wolves, I've never seen anything like that. Is that unique to paladins?" Kyle exchanged glances with Kai and Mike before asking, "How much stamina did that finishing move cost you?" "Only 25 points, Andrew replied casually. "That's insane," they exclaimed in unison. "There's clearly much about this game we don't understand yet," Tommy mused, as several players noticed their log-out times approaching. Kyle and Mike announced they could stay for another half hour while the others bid their farewells and walked together back to the city for logged-out purposes. The remaining 3 made their way toward the riverbank. "Yeah, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with," Mike said confidently. Mike stammered. "My club weapon cost me 100 stamina to throw." Andrew grinned, attributing his quick adaptation to years of gaming experience. Kyle, suddenly energized, interjected, "Hey, we've got 30 minutes left. Let's see if we can get you to level 5. With that, the trio set off on their wolf-hunting expedition, ready to make the most of their remaining time. As the 30 minutes drew to a close, they surveyed the landscape, now eerily devoid of dire wolves. "What time is it?" Andrew asked, to which Mike replied, 9:30 p.m. Kyle teleported them back to the city, and Kyle and Mike bid their farewells and logged off, leaving Andrew alone to contemplate in the green safe zone. Looking at his light band, Andrew noticed he was only level 4. Before the others had departed, he'd asked if anyone had ever walked along the mysterious city walls. Their unanimous confusion about why such a barrier existed in the safe zone only piqued his curiosity further. "I am sure someone must have," said Kyle. Andrew's first class was not starting until 8:30 tomorrow. He figured he could stay up until midnight and still manage a decent rest if he slept until 7. "Well, won't hurt to explore," he muttered to himself, standing up again to begin his journey tracing along the city walls. Though he'd assumed he'd remain in the safe zone's comfortable embrace, he noticed the green pasture gradually narrowing into the river that went around the wall. Soon, the safe zone had constricted to barely a foot wide, forcing him to press against the wall to continue his exploration. "This is so stupid," he said, as he kind of had to hump climb sideways. Looking down, he saw multiple sets of yellow eyes in the water, staring at him. "I bet you would love if I fell in, right?" Andrew said. After walking sideways, the walkway was to the point he was almost on his toes. After about 45 minutes of tedious and extremely careful navigation, the path finally opened into a circular clearing. In the distance, something caught his eye. A rhythmic bobbing motion near a lake that stretched to the edge of the safe zone. Squinting, he could make out what appeared to be a flame, floating mysteriously next to what looked like digitized armor. "Can I even swim in this game?" he wondered aloud. Cautiously, he removed his armor and stored it safely before testing the water with his foot. Instantly, a massive piranha-like creature lunged at him, causing him to cry out in surprise. He frantically stabbed at it with his sword until it burst into pixels, yielding more XP than any dire wolf he'd encountered. "One bite took 15 HP off my character," he exclaimed, quickly deciding that swimming wouldn't be part of today's exploration. As he continued along his path, the clearing widened to roughly the size of a building. There, embedded in the wall's surface, something unusual caught his attention: a sword, mysteriously protruding from the ancient wall, guarding the city of new beginnings. Andrew approached the mysterious sword embedded in the wall, his curiosity getting the better of him. Reaching out, he touched the blade with his finger and whispered, "Analyze," triggering a menu that materialized to his right. To his amazement, the display revealed something he hadn't known existed in the game: an unbreakable object. It was listed in bold letters as Mythic. The sword had a name, Obtuse, and has the magical ability to negate all attacks from other players if the sword is struck. Underneath the tab that clearly lists as Unbreakable, it clearly stated takes no damage nor degradation. The sword's specifications showed 3 powerful special moves, though they were currently locked behind level restrictions. According to the information displayed, these abilities would only become available once he reached level 10, hinting at the weapon's extraordinary potential. Everything was obscured related to the damage it could unleash until he hit level 10, but did not appear to restrict him from using it. What truly caught his attention was the unique property listed at the bottom of the description. This wasn't just any ordinary weapon. The sword possessed the ability to grow stronger alongside its wielder, scaling with the user's own power level. This discovery made Andrew's heart race with excitement as he contemplated the possibilities such a weapon could offer. It also was in the listing of Mythic, which was the rarest item that could be obtained in the game. Placing one hand on the wall, and Andrew grasped the sword's hilt, its surface cool to the touch. He braced himself, expecting significant resistance, but to his surprise, the blade slid from the wall as smoothly as if it were being drawn from a scabbard. He was met with an immediate congratulation. Message: "Congratulations, Mercurius. You have obtained the mythic sword Obtuse and will be registered as its first user." A soft golden light emanated from the newly created gap in the wall, dancing across his face before fading into the night air. The extraction triggered no alarms, spawned no monsters, and set off no traps. Just the quiet whisper of steel against stone, followed by a gentle rush of cool air. The sword in his hands was a masterpiece of digital craftsmanship. The blade, approximately 3.5 feet in length, possessed a mirror-like surface that seemed to capture and reflect even the faintest light. Intricate runic patterns were etched along its fuller, glowing with a subtle silver luminescence that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The crossguard was fashioned from what appeared to be darkened silver, curved slightly toward the blade, with 3 small red gemstones embedded at each end. The grip was wrapped in deep silver-colored leather, showing no signs of wear or age, and terminated in its impressive handle. Despite its impressive size, the sword felt perfectly balanced in his hands, as if it had been specifically crafted for him. The weapon radiated an aura of ancient power, yet felt alive and responsive to his touch, like a long-lost friend finally reunited. The moment the sword left the wall, a cascade of bright notifications illuminated the night air around Andrew. Mission accomplished. The hunt for Obtuse. You have discovered the mythic sword Obtuse, an ancient weapon of untold power. As the first player to obtain a mythic-grade item, you have been granted the honor of renaming both the weapon and creating a new quest line. The notifications continued to stream, their golden text shimmering in the darkness. Congratulations! First mythic item discovered. Obtuse Ancient mythic sword. This legendary blade has been waiting for a worthy wielder for over 1,000 years. As its discoverer, you may bestow upon it a new name that will be recorded in the annals of history. Divine Reward Selection. Choose one of 3 divine skills. Hero's Might, 30 minutes of unlimited stamina, allowed once per day. Hero's Buff, dispel hostile creatures for 30 minutes once per day. Hero's Power, 30 minutes of invulnerability, allowed once per day. Andrew pondered each as he read them out loud, but ultimately selected Hero's Buff, knowing the tactical advantage of being able to dispel creatures daily would be invaluable. After careful consideration, he named the quest line Merc's Bane. Bane, meaning a person or thing that ruins or spoils, the ultimate downfall or nemesis of something. As he held the newly christened sword, he couldn't help but smile at the thought that he would become the bane of all hostile creatures in this world, their worst nightmare, their ultimate destroyer. The name seemed fitting for both the quest line and his newfound role as the first wielder of a mythic weapon. A bright flash erupted in front of Andrew after he named the quest line Merc's Bane, and a new notification materialized in shimmering golden text. New quest line, established, Merc's Bane. Your chosen name has created a ripple effect in the game world. This location has now become a legendary landmark that will grant future travelers a unique reward, Lunar Sentinel's armor. The notification expanded, revealing details about a magnificent armor set that would now be obtainable by those who discovered this hidden location. The armor, adorned with intricate lunar symbols and crafted from a mysterious silvery metal, would grant its wearer tremendous power during the full moon. Each piece seemed to capture and reflect moonlight in a way that made it appear almost liquid, with runes that would pulse in rhythm with the lunar cycles. When equipped as a complete set during a full moon, the Lunar Sentinel's armor would enhance all of the wearer's abilities by 50%, including strength, agility, and magical prowess. The armor's description hinted at ancient lunar warriors who once guarded these lands, suggesting that Andrew's discovery had not only unveiled a powerful weapon, but had also awakened a long-forgotten legacy. The notification concluded by stating that this reward would only be granted to those who proved worthy enough to find this hidden sanctuary, ensuring that only the most dedicated adventurers would claim this lunar-enhanced prize. Andrew realized the true magnitude of his discovery as another notification appeared, explaining the exclusive nature of the Lunar Sentinel's armor. The system would only allow one armor piece to be claimed per day across the entire game server, regardless of how many players discovered the location. This restriction made the armor set incredibly rare and valuable, as it would take at least 5 days for a single player to collect the complete set: helmet, chest piece, gauntlets, leggings, and boots. The notification specifically granted Andrew the authority to control access to this location for the first month, allowing him to select who would be permitted to attempt the armor collection. A smile spread across his face as he thought about his close-knit group of gaming friends: Kyle with his exceptional healing abilities, Mike's unmatched tank skills, and Kai's devastating magic attacks. They could coordinate their efforts over the next few weeks to each obtain complete sets, creating an elite squad enhanced by lunar power. After the month-long exclusivity period, they could potentially broker deals with high-level players and major guilds, selling either the location information or acting as guides for a considerable fee. Given the armor's unique attributes and its server-wide daily limitation, Andrew estimated that access to this location could easily command prices in the millions of gold coins, potentially even real-world currency, if the marketplace opened. He quickly sent a private message to his friends, careful to encrypt it with their special code, knowing that information this valuable could make them the wealthiest players in the game if handled correctly. Andrew stood at the water's edge, his newly acquired sword strapped securely to his back. In the distance, partially submerged in the dark waters, he could make out the gleaming form of what appeared to be a piece of the lunar sentinel's armor. Without hesitation, he activated his hero's buff, watching as a golden aura enveloped his body. The water's surface immediately began to ripple as countless hostile creatures were forcefully dispelled, creating clear patches in the otherwise dangerous waters. Moving quickly, knowing his 30-minute window was precious, Andrew dove into the water. The dispelling effect created a safe corridor through the usually monster-infested lake, and he could see various creatures being pushed away from his path like leaves in a strong wind. The armor pieces grew clearer as he approached. It was the chest piece and full armor set, its silvery blue surface catching what little light penetrated the depths. As he swam, Andrew noticed the golden aura beginning to flicker slightly, a warning that his buff was starting to wear thin. He reached the armor pieces and quickly added it to his inventory with a swift interaction prompt. Next to it, he noticed an eternal flame floating in an underwater alcove, somehow burning despite being submerged. He grabbed it as well. The return journey proved more challenging as his buff began to weaken further. Andrew could see the protective barrier becoming increasingly unstable, with small gaps appearing where creatures could potentially slip through. His muscles burned as he pushed himself to swim faster, the shore seeming impossibly far away. Just as he approached the shallower waters, the buff flickered one final time and disappeared completely. Almost immediately, 3 massive piranhas, each the size of a small dog, burst through the now absent barrier. The first one clamped onto his left foot, sending a shock of pain through his leg. Before he could react, a second one bit into his right foot, and in a moment of horrific comedy, the third latched firmly onto his posterior. Adrenaline surging, Andrew lunged for the shoreline, dragging himself and his unwanted passengers onto the rocky beach. The piranhas holding his feet released their grip as they flopped helplessly on dry land, but the one attached to his backside remained firmly clamped on. In a moment of desperate inspiration, or perhaps just panic-induced madness, Andrew leaped into the air and landed hard on his back, crushing the piranha beneath him. The impact sent a shock through his entire body, but he could feel the creature's grip loosening. Not taking any chances, Andrew repeated the maneuver twice more, each time slamming his posterior against the ground until he heard a decisive squish and felt the piranha's jaws go slack. Rolling to his feet, he quickly dispatched the other 2 fish with his new sword, watching them dissolve into pixels. A notification popped up showing minor damage to his hit points from the bites and his rather unorthodox method of piranha removal. But he had survived. Standing there, soaking wet and slightly wounded in pride and posterior, Andrew couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of what had just transpired. At least no other players had been around to witness his rather undignified battle technique. Laying on the ground, he knew his life got way more interesting. While tending to his piranha-induced injuries, Andrew received a private message from Kyle, his tech-savvy guildmate. "Dude, go to bed. You've got to check out this new iPhone app in the store. This is the one. It's a game changer." Andrew opened the in-game store and found the sleek, augmented reality eye patch that Kyle had recommended. The device promised seamless integration of real-world smartphone functions into the game environment. Priced at $99 for a one-time purchase or 20,000 premium coins, it wasn't cheap. But Kyle's enthusiasm and the feature list were convincing. The ability to take in-game photos and videos, stream music from personal playlists while playing, and even receive notifications from the real world without breaking immersion. The matte black eye patch looked incredibly cool, with subtle LED trim that pulsed in rhythm with incoming notifications. "Thanks for the tip, Kyle," Andrew messaged back as he completed the purchase, watching as the virtual currency disappeared from his account and the eye patch materialized in his inventory. "This is all the last of my money from the farm, compadre," he said. After equipping the iPhone, Andrew spent a few minutes configuring its settings and syncing it with his real-world smartphone, following Kyle's setup tips through their voice chat. Then, with a grin, he struck what he hoped was an epic pose with his newly acquired mythic sword, its surface gleaming in the moonlight. Using the iPhone's voice command Capture, he took his first in-game selfie, making sure to get the golden quest markers and the lake in the background. He also took a picture with his new mythic sword and saved it on his favorite. Thinking it over, he decided to send the pic of his new sword to his friend Kyle. Making the motions and finding the picture he wanted, he sent the picture. As he surveyed the selection box still available on his screen, he paused to consider the option of naming his sword. After a moment of contemplation, he decided to keep the name it already had, Obtuse. There was something about the name that resonated with him. It wasn't just a label, it seemed to embody the essence of the weapon itself. The sword had a certain stubbornness to it, much like the mission they were about to embark on. The name Obtuse felt fitting, capturing both the physical heft of the blade and the metaphorical challenges that lay ahead. He mused to himself, "Obtuse? That's a good name for this sword." Reflecting on the name, he realized that it also symbolized his approach to the mission. Just as the sword was unyielding, he too needed to be steadfast and resilient in the face of adversity. The mission promised to test their limits, requiring both strength and strategy. Keeping the sword with the name Obtuse was a reminder to embrace these qualities, to be unwavering and determined no matter what obstacles they encountered. It was more than just a name, it was a mindset. As he finalized his selection, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to wield Obtuse with confidence and face the challenges ahead with the same stubborn resolve. Standing up again, he made his way to the gate of his new home in the Land of Sojourn, heading toward the town of new beginnings. The path was illuminated by the soft glow of the twin moons, casting a gentle light over the landscape. Each step brought him closer to the gate, a symbol of the fresh start he was about to embark upon. The air was crisp and filled with the promise of new adventures, as if the very land itself was welcoming him to this new chapter of his life. Reaching the gate entrance, he paused for a moment and turned around to gaze at the night sky. The sight was breathtaking, with the two moons hanging like guardians in the vast expanse above. Their light bathed the landscape in a serene glow, highlighting the beauty of the world around him. As he stood there, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him to this point. The magnificent view served as a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead, filling him with a sense of wonder and anticipation for the adventures to come in the Land of Sojourn. He looked at his light band and instead selected his menu to show the logout button as it appeared before him. He selected the button, and in a feeling of momentary disappointment and rush, his view of the world rushed into darkness. Taking his real hands, he pulled the shroud back into the headgear and pulled his headset off. He placed it at the side of his bed. Even though he had started at 6, it was almost midnight. Looking at his phone, he saw a text from Kyle. It read, "Don't talk to anyone until we talk tomorrow. Don't share knowledge or a picture. This is huge. You might make the SoTube news feed." Andrew set his alarm on his phone for 6:50 a.m., let out a big yawn, and little did he know the real news that would appear tomorrow.
Stay tuned for next week's episode 4, A Whole Lot to Do About Nothing.